over the next 2 years and in the future. The district has come a long way since the last strike in 2013, when the teachers decided to strike back then. Teachers went on strike back then because the board was offering zero wage increases. Zero wage increases while you went on strike last time. Our current offer means that the teachers and support staff would have 7 years straight of raises that exceeded CPI, and most people exceeded 3%. This year, with this year being the highest in the last 6 years. The Board of Education was hopeful that our last offer would have been accepted and the strike could have been avoided. While we don't know how long the strike will go on, it is important to note that Friday was already a day off for students. It is a scheduled professional development day for teachers. In closing, I want to reiterate that the entire District Board of Education is committed to reaching a fair contract agreement without extending the disruption of the school year. You can find ongoing updates at the district website. We ask that the community to continue to support both the board and the teachers and the support staff as we work diligently to secure a contract agreement that is in the best interest of all District 46 stakeholders. First person up on public comment is a Mr. Redding. Sir, please come up and we'll give you a microphone. That's a Redding. Jason? Sorry. You're up, sir. I'll give you a microphone over here.
Hi. I'm not here to talk about teacher pay. I'm here to talk about why we need to end teacher pensions. Teachers make up 1% of the state of Illinois, 50% of the state pension. That number is $73 billion. That's up $7 billion from last year, even though all pension payments were made. They are clearly unsustainable. Illinois spends more money on pensions than it does for the health care of the state.
Pension is a promise.
Yeah, well, state taxpayers didn't make the promise, sir. They were made behind closed doors, without our input, without our knowledge. And teachers are the #1 contributor to politicians. Since 1987, pension benefits have gone up 900%. Every time you raise taxes for pension, every time you raise taxes for pensions.
Address us, please.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We don't want to get in the back.
No, every time you raise,
And we need to still say civil, not
I
only for
do.
you, but for Mr. LaPierre and Alton Brown.
I'm just gonna get fast. Okay, every time you raise taxes, people leave, businesses leave, there's fewer jobs, more unemployment, more poverty, and more check your.
Sir, do not comment in the audience, please. It just says turn to talk.
As I
With the
mentioned,
civil, we do have a lot of kids inside this audience. And we also have high school students here who are part of the civics class that are getting their education as well. So please keep the comments from the audience down.
oppressive property taxes, also decrease the value of the homes, make more upside down mortgages. We've had an increase of home foreclosures and homelessness. As I mentioned, the money the state spends for pensions is money that's not spent for the people. When Quinn was governor, he closed 7 correctional institutes, 2 state mental health hospitals. In Chicago, Emmanuel closed 6 mental health clinics. And the last thing I want to mention is, right now the state of Illinois pays pensions for teachers outside of Chicago. In the 2017 budget battle, in order for the state not to be moved down to some status, the idea was floated to take the teacher pensions and send them back to the school boards that created the numbers, and if and when that happens, property taxes are going to double. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rhonda Ravens-Malik, sorry, I'm just going to the last name.
My name is Rhonda Raven Malik, and I've been in this district since 1991. I have 3 children, and they've all gone through and graduated from Braithwaite Middle School. First, when I decided to speak tonight, I was going to talk about my 18 years as a PSRP and how virtually I'm making the same amount of money as I did 18 years ago. I was simply going to state how several years no raises were given, and that the years we were given minimal raises, our hours were reduced. And then I was going to talk about the year I received a 1 penny raise, and I have the paperwork at home to prove it. And then I was going to state how the district decided to match my IMRF retirement fund based on the amount of salary that was left after the pre-tax insurance premiums that were $7,000 to $9,000 depending on what year it was. And that left me with $160 on my 8-year vested anniversary for my monthly pension. That was finally changed, however, it was not retroactive. And I was going to state how due to a business office error, I was overpaid and then asked to pay back $3,000 even though it was their mistake. Each raise was always offset by something. But this morning when I started to read the question and answer section posted by the board, so carefully answering questions while leaving out so many facts that would really make things appear differently, I changed my mind and I wanted to talk about average teacher salaries. A few weeks ago, it was mentioned that a new district office position was created with a starting salary of $55,000. It created quite a bit of resentment in my building.
That's the resentment.
Hello? It created quite a bit of resentment since so many of my longtime teacher colleagues do not make that much money. It was also stated that the average teacher salary is $60,661. I was really confused, so I decided to do a little research. I found salaries posted on the school website October 11th as the 2019 school year. There's only 278 employees listed on there. 20 are administrators totaling $2,139,000 and change. 16 teachers were part-time. 57 salaries were in the $70,000 to $100,000 range. And of the declared average $60,000 range, there was only 55 teachers listed. I'm almost done. That leaves 127 teachers, plus the ones that were missing from the list, and none of them make $60,000. They're all under that. I asked the business office if the administrative salaries are included in that average, but they could not give me an answer. This information actually is not currently accurate. It reflects last year's staff, not this year, and is vastly different due to the huge turnover from last year and some high salaries that are gone, and all the new teachers that have starting salaries in the $30,000 range. In addition, the administrator salaries do not include their recent raises, so I'm still really confused. After the strike was announced, an email came from the district office today requiring the teachers to turn in their room keys and computers before leaving the building. Even though the teachers are not supposed to work during the strike, the district knows full well that all these dedicated teachers are going to be doing their planning and preparing for them to come back. And that's because they care. The only ones being hurt by this unnecessary move are the children. What a waste. Everything being posted is sort of shady and incomplete, and that makes it hard to know what is true and what is not true. But this much I know is true. This strike is sending a much-needed message. Enough is enough. Share the fraction of the money asked for with the staff that makes the biggest difference to our children. The teachers specifically gave us a much-needed day to get ready for the report cards because they knew that everybody already had daycare planned. The PSRP are not even being paid for Friday, but we're going to be participating. The teachers and support staff in this district are the best of the best, and they deserve what we are asking for. In spite of all the conflicting and confusing numbers out there, I also know that this is true. After 18 fabulous years in the most rewarding job I've ever had, and I've had some good ones, I now make $23,000.
Grace?
Hi, I'm Grace McCowan. I'm a fifth grade student at Frederick, and I used to go to Meadowview. All of my teachers have been great and have loved me. I still have a teacher at Meadowview who sends books home with my little sister that she knows that I like to read. I've had a teacher stop by at my house while she was walking her dog to help me with my math homework when I didn't understand it. All of my teachers have helped me through the hard times. Teachers deserve millions of dollars, but that's not what they are asking for. My teachers teach me to be fair, kind, and respectful to others. Please treat them that way.
I assume this is your sister, Louise?
Hi, my name is Elise. I'm in third grade at Meadowview School. My teachers help me all the time. They help my friends too. My teachers are awesome. They are good to me, so you should be good to them. I love my teachers and I want fair pay for them. Please and thank you.
Nicola Case?
Well, that was a tough act to follow. These girls are great. These are the kind of kids our teachers produce. My name is Nicola Case, and I have two children that attend District 46 schools. We moved here in 2008 and have two children at Meadowview for 12 years in a row now. We have experienced exceptional teaching every year. We moved here, like other parents, I'm sure, because the schools were highly regarded. As a community, we should maintain that expectation and high standard so we can still continue to draw in strong families to our community. We should pay above average for the exceptional teaching all our children have experienced. My daughter's in first grade this year. She leaves for school 2 minutes earlier. She's a walker, so she can walk the opposite way from the blue pod so she can say good morning to get her morning hug from Mrs. Kuhlmeyer, her kindergarten teacher from last year. I have so many wonderful stories about the Meadowview and Frederick teachers, but I have a feeling that this is going to be a long night, so I will spare everyone. I would like to address this board because I don't like the tone of your emails to our community. I don't appreciate your half-truths, and it's bold. When we start, and I say when, we start losing high-quality, educated, caring, dedicated teachers, then we will also lose our families as well. I was happy to see you were able to come up in your percentage, but it needs to come up more. Please do right by our teachers and support staff. I know we don't get paid to be here, but neither do our teachers. Our teachers are at home on Saturdays putting in their grades for portals. Just last Saturday, I saw on my son's grade that the teacher was at 1:47 in the afternoon going on and entering grades. At 8:47 at night, they're entering grades. They don't get paid for this. This shows their dedication. Thank you for your time.
Brendan Gonzalez?
Hello, my name is Brandon Gonzalez, and I'm a fifth grade student at Frederick School. Teachers are one of the most important things in our lives, and if they go on with the strike, we will be behind in what we're learning. Please try to do whatever you can. Try not to let the teachers go on strike. Thank you for listening.
Melissa DeMarco?
Hello. It's good to see so many faces here and back here as well. We have a very involved community in Great Lake. I moved here 13 years ago because of the community, because of Great Lake, because of the school board, because of our schools. We have enjoyed every moment being here, and I have 4 kids, and so I have a very vested interest in this school. Teachers are the cornerstone of our schools, period. We love our teachers. We love our teachers who have taught our kids from kindergarten and up. And we all think that teachers need to be paid more. I know that the board's responsibility is to look at the bigger picture and protecting the long-term financial health of the district. And I agree with that as well. And I hope that all of us together can find a way for a solution, because right now this is a Band-Aid, and this is going to happen again next year when contract negotiations come up, and we need to look past this downstate for progressive income tax reform. We need to look at closing or consolidating schools, and we need to look at bigger pictures. Everyone here wants to find a solution. I know that. I don't have the solution. I think that we need to work together to find something bigger than 0.5%.
Kelly, is it the same now?
Good evening. My name is Kelly Casino, and I'm a member of the District 46 school community. I've been with this district over 10 years, and I'm also a volunteer for the local Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. My fellow volunteers, Anna and Mira, are here with me tonight, and you heard from Anna last month. My children, Ava and Lily, are in 3rd and 6th grade at Park School, and their safety is my #1 concern. I know the board is very busy right now with all the contract negotiations, so I will make this brief. On November 23rd, the Illinois Association of School Boards will vote on resolution #1, which would give school districts across the state the discretion to arm teachers. I'm asking you to oppose this resolution. You've indicated that Jason LaCroix or Christy Braden will be the delegate at the conference, and I ask you to please officially vote no. We had a minor gun safety scare at Park at the start of the school year, and it was very apparent that school safety is a top priority for everyone in our community, including educators, parents, and administrators. I strongly believe that arming our teachers is not a viable solution because it invites many unintended consequences. I'm concerned about the disruption to the safe, secure environment that we currently already have as we introduce firearms in such close proximity to our children. And research casts significant doubt on the ability of teachers to stop active shooters. We at Mom Demand Action are fighting for what we know works, things like background checks on all gun sales, red flag laws, and safe storage of guns. So again, I ask you to please vote no on resolution 1, and I thank you for listening during this very interesting time. Thank you.
Next thing we have on the agenda is presentation. The first one is on student data.
Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to share some information with you today. It's our regular annual event of being able to share our assessment information with you. And so I have a good number of slides and good information to share with you about two of our major assessments that happened during last school year, the Illinois Assessment of Readiness and the Illinois Science Assessment. We have a lot of initials when we have our state assessments, so I'm going to try to go through as detailed as possible for us to share information. So I'm going to start off pretty direct that the 2018 IAR assessment was the first time that we actually had the IAR. You probably have heard me in the past call it the PARC assessment. Before that, it was the ISAT assessment. Before that, it was the IGAP assessment. So the state of Illinois changed from a consortium assessment to just Illinois. And they also changed some of the testing practices, the length of the assessments, like happy about, changed the format of some of the assessments. So I want to make sure that we're being very clear that IAR really should be considered, in my opinion, a new assessment. So I do have one to information because the state of Illinois does say that we can make some judgments about years past. And I want to make sure that I'm being very clear that it's a different assessment than the assessment that we took in 2018. I just had some information. Our test window for these results were from April 3rd to 24th. And then we also have some students who took an alternate assessment because of their needs at the moment. So there was an alternate assessment that was given. One of my challenges, I'm being very honest about it, one of my challenges is that all of our students were required to take this assessment, no matter about their language proficiency. And so all of our students who have just come to the country up to 1 year and beyond are asked to take the test. Some scores weren't counted in our overall results, but that's one of the things we're going to hear in the upcoming slide about the need to have a different state assessment that has heritage language involved, specifically in Spanish, so that we can test our students in the language that they use on a regular basis. So I wanted to give you some information about the assessment. I very much value the left side up there. This was their test design for the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. They wanted to start with standards, and if anybody knows me, we talk about standards a lot. I'm looking at teachers out here in the audience. We talk about standards very much, and that's very important. We also want to look at the types of questions that we're asking. We want to make sure that we're matching the questions to the standards. So if the standard is asking for a certain kind of student performance, we should be asking questions specifically designed for that. We want to look at the administration of the test as well. The length of the test, who should be taking the test, and then scoring and reporting. This first part of my presentation is all about the Illinois Assessment of Readiness. The second part is going to be about the Illinois Science Assessment. And I hope by the end you will see that we have very different scoring and reporting between those two state assessments. And so we want to make sure that our data is clear, that it's actionable, that we can do something with the information. That all has to do with assessment literacy. So in the presentation, I'm going to be mentioning assessment literacy. That was one of our topics for the first Opening Institute Day, was to help our district learn more about assessment literacy. So we're going to make those connections. The middle one, the middle box, it talks about this new assessment, which I was very happy about. It reduced the testing time by 1/3, from 6 hours or less to 6 hours or less. But they maintain, it says it maintains the ability to connect those scores. On the bottom, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but that's one of the things we were talking about. So it does suggest in the middle box, where it says 2021, the state is hoping to transition to a computer-adapted assessment. So that means we have 1 more year of the IAR, and then we'll have another new state assessment. I love the idea about it being computer-adapted. It's very similar to what our students currently take with math. If the students get questions correct, the questions get progressively harder. If the students are struggling a little bit, it'll get them into a zone where they can feel successful. I love that idea. That's a great thing, but it does need a change in assessment again. I love the last box, the last circle up there, 2022. I wish that was this year. The 2022 circle says develop a true native language mathematics assessment. I know Dr. Diaz is going to be hooray for that. We really necessarily have to have a test in Spanish for our students. And I wholeheartedly have to give our students that opportunity. They're missing a reading assessment. So I think we still have work to do to make it. And then that doesn't count for the 62 other languages-ish, 64 other languages that we have represented in the district now. So the test we're talking about is Spanish only, and we're missing 64 other languages represented in your district. No different. So that new computer testing is coming. We're hoping it's going to be ready and it's going to be ready. So I'm going to jump right in. I have lots of information to share. There's lots of graphs. But really the bigger point is that we have information for teachers and administrators to talk through. So I'm going to jump right in and I'm going to share how the slides are designed. So the way the state looks at it is we look at the number of students, the percentage of students who have met or exceeded the state standard. What I've done is I've combined the information from the last few years. You may notice that in the column for 2019, there is no cross-state data. And so cross-state data was from the PARC assessment, and so we no longer have any other states to compare it to. It's just, I don't know, I hope that makes sense. You'll see that I put MA in all these columns. You may want to know why there's one green box. That's color on purpose, and so the one green box indicates that was a change, a positive change from the year before. I'm going to reiterate that I strongly believe that the 2018 test was different, and so it's very difficult to make all the assumptions that those numbers are statistically reliable to compare, and being upfront and honest about that. So we have third grade for book 4, ELA. So I did all of the schools. On all of the slides that I produced, the first band is cross-state. You'll see that there isn't an orangish rust color because, again, that's because there was no cross-state data. Just making sure that we're being clear. I won't share that every time. We look across the state, the district, and then each of our elementary schools for third grade. We're going to move on to the fourth grade as well. We're moving on to 5th and 6th grade. Yes, these boxes are important, but this isn't really the meat of why we have the state assessment information. So I'm just making sure that we know. But this slide is really a celebration. If we look in both columns, both 5th and 6th grade, the changes from 5th to, from last year to 5th this year, 6th to last year to 6th this year, you notice that the boxes are all green. So that's a very big celebration if we are agreeing that this test can be compared. But it is a good thing because right now that's what's being compared at the state level. So I'm happy to see that. Same idea with the charts. You will see we have a little bit of a discrepancy between Frederick and Park. Some of that is based on demographics, some of that is based on the size of the school. But our goal is to have those schools the same. We would like to see student performance at the same level for both of those schools. Same idea for 6th grade. 7th and 8th grade, you see again we have a lot of green boxes. So we've seen tremendous growth. These teacher teams have been working very hard to revise curriculum to understand the standard. And I am not excluding the 3rd and 4th grade teachers when I say that, but the 5th through 8th grade did show significant difference in their schools. I feel like I'm talking about two different things, because I want to say we can't compare them, but we are comparing them. So I apologize for that mix, but it is important because this is the information that's out on the state website. Same idea about the charts. So, those charts are all well and good, but this is the chart that we've been diving into greatly. I have been very, very, very pleased that we have a wonderful partnership with the Regional Office of Education, and we have two content area specialists who've been working with us. They've been doing an analysis for us. They've been meeting with instructional coaches and administrators, and they will be meeting with teachers in the near future to share this information. I'm very pleased about that relationship. A little bit different than I've had in the past about the relationship with the regional office. They are amazing, strong content specialists, and our teachers are very much enjoying working with them. Nicole Straub and Lauren Lipsey are very new. I want to congratulate and thank them for all their effort. This is one of the reports that we get for every grade and every subject. And I wanted to talk us through that chart a little bit. You see in the upper right, though, that this report is not for public review. So I cut off some things on the chart so that I can't be illegal showing this report to all of you. But I wanted to give you the essence of this report. This is called the evidence table. And what this does is that this is how the state ranks all the questions on the test. You'll notice that on this example, I'm not even going to tell you what subject it is. Well, I know it's English because it says writing on the side. So that's that as it is. There's 25 questions. The way the state organizes it is that it's from the most difficult question to the easiest question. And you'll see that in this case, this is a district report. The blue box is the state average. The green circle is the district average. And we get the same reports for each building, and so there's a little orange triangle where each building is. This really helps us. You may notice that there are numbers across underneath each of those 1 through 25. Those are actually connected to the standards. So our teacher teams know what those mean. They know what those concepts are. They know what the expectations are. So we're able to look at it. We may notice that questions 3 and 4 doesn't have a green circle. That means that none of our students actually got that question on the assessment. The IAR has multiple versions of the assessment, and so kids don't all get the same question. And so they try to have these as the core. There's more than 25 questions on the assessment, but they pull these out, and they try to have these as the primary questions. Does that make sense to everybody? One of the challenges for the IAR assessment is that every year, that list of standards is different. I'll say that again. Every year, that list of standards is different. So we have to be prepared with a plethora of standards. We have to be able to expose our students to lots of different ones. Sure, there's some repeats, but it's not a consistent list. So what we have to do is to see trends over time, and to see categories. Some of those might be about literature, some of those might be about informational text, some of those might be about language skills. So we look at analyze each of those standards to see how our district is doing. We make connections back to our unit guides, and we look back into instructional resources. That's the rich conversation that we can have about those charts. Those numbers are fine, but we really want to get to the standards level. If you remember from that first slide, that was the first thing about standards. We want to make sure that we're understanding what the standards are. This other column is specific to ELA, and so that has to do with writing instruction. The interesting thing is that you may notice the second to last bar, it says research simulation. On all the versions, every student is exposed to a research simulation. Some students are exposed to a literary analysis, while some other students get narrative writing. So all students are tested on all of those areas except for research simulation. So we know that's one that we have to pay close attention to. Half the kids about literary analysis, half the kids get narrative. I can't guarantee that those two other ones are going to be the same next year. They might be a different kind of writing assessment that we expose kids to. So the consistency between year to year makes our planning very, very difficult. I wanted to take time just to talk about this chart because this is where we get to the meat of discussion and analysis about what we can do for our students moving forward. I've been talking for a while. Do you have any questions so far?
On the idea of the standards changing year over year, is that something that the test creators have intentionally to preclude teaching the test or any other reason?
So we're remembering that the standards that we're talking about are the Common Core state standards. There's approximately 100 standards per grade level for every subject. And so we've done the process of identifying the ones that are the most important. Nicole and Lauren at the regional office has also helped us prioritize which ones are critically important for the best success. So we know, I'm going to be geeky about my standards, but it's typically standards 1, 2, and 3, 4, 6, 9. Those are the ones that are the most important because there's typically 10 major standards under literature. There's 10 major standards under informational text. There's 10 major standards, you get the point, about language. So the idea is that as a school district, we're supposed to be responsible for all of those. And so it's a way for the state to say, yes, all of those are important. The trend is that some of those standards, though, show up so minimally or little that that doesn't have to be our major focus. The state has identified some of those standards as, I would call them priority standards, but they're the major content standards, and then they have supporting standards as well. So they've also helped us identify which ones are the most important ones. Am I answering your question? But it still means that there's a lot of standards that could be on the test. That's where professional judgment on teacher teams make a difference for us. We have to, I would much rather our students go deep and rich into a smaller number of standards that they're going to knock it out of the park than get a little bit of information about each of the 100. It doesn't mean that those other standards aren't part of good instruction. Our teachers know that they add those into instruction, but those aren't the ones that we're focusing the most time on. Did I answer? Any other questions?
I have one that's a little bit unclear. I'm curious about the privacy firewalls around this information because this data is linked to each of our students' personal profiles, correct?
So each student gets a score report that's going home with the report cards. We do have all of those as a secure PDF. Those are secured in ways that only the people who need to have access to have those access points. So I'm trying to go down that road.
I'm just kind of fishing right now too because I'm not going anywhere, but I'm also curious who else has access to the data. Is it in the cloud? Is it with the testing assessment companies? And then are there firewalls in place to prevent them from selling that data to someone else?
I wish I could answer all of those. I know
Like
that
I said,
all
it's in
of
left field, so.
I know that all of our assessment information from the state either comes in one paper copy, and so that we get one thing to send home to parents. But we also I have access, administrators have access to the reports. It's a secure login that we have to go in. It's not publicly accessible from our side, but beyond that, I don't know how to answer that. So if you couldn't tell, I like this report a lot. It's an important one. These reports are going to be shared with teachers. We're sharing with you first. We've had an opportunity to start diving into it, but these will be part of our job-like work. So when teacher teams get together, they'll be able to analyze this. But also Lauren and Nicole gave us a cheat sheet. They've gone through and given us, here are the standards that you might want to consider looking at a little bit more closely. Here are the standards that you've shown growth over time, so keep it up. And here are ones that maybe you're spending time on that maybe you could weaken a little bit. Does that make sense? So I think those are really good. I've used the term already about assessment literacy. And I put the Opening Institute Day picture about one district, one direction, story to success. So that was from our opening day presentation about assessment literacy. So what are some of the things about, I want to make sure I'm explaining that. Assessment literacy doesn't mean literacy as in we're reading, but literacy means how much we know about good assessment practices. So what are some of the things we want to do is we love that involvement with the ROE staff. We want to refresh of the question. We have a refresh of the question types. I'm going to share that. We reviewed, released, and sample test questions. And we're looking to try to include those kind of sample questions into our regular work with students. And so there are three major types of questions that we have been focusing on. One of them is a part A and part B. And so that's a testing type that our students need to have explicit practice with. So a type A problem would be identify the theme of this story. That would be an example of a type A question. And type B is find the best evidence that supports that theme in the text. It's really, you have to get the first one correct to get the second one correct. Does that make sense to you? So kids need to be exposed to those kind of question types. The other one, another kind of question type is, it's called enhanced technology. And so because this test is given to the majority of students in Illinois on a computer, there are questions like drag and drop, where kids actually move things around or put things in order or delineate information. So we need to give kids practice in doing those kind of things. And then the last one is all about constructive response. There isn't necessarily short answers or fill in the blank. It's typically a short essay, write a sentence or two. Remember, this is all computer-based, so kids have to be exposed to be able to write, really type their answers out. Those are all part of assessment literacy. I'm going to keep going because we have the additional charts. Here's math for 3rd and 4th grade. You'll notice a good number of green for 3rd grade and one over there, Meadowview, for 4th grade. A little bit of scatter about scores. We're working hard to have a consistent unit plan. We have our cycle assessments for almost every subject throughout the whole district for every, at least twice every trimester for reading and for math. Here are those charts again. Fifth and 6th grade. Fifth grade. 6th grade. 7th grade and 8th grade. And the charts for 7th and 8th grade.
Paul, what will these reports track the student from kindergarten through 8th to?
It's only things that we would be doing, not necessarily any of the state produces for our students.
The reason why I ask is, you look at 7th grade last year to 8th grade this year, it wasn't that, but 8th grade, it's not the same cohort.
So for the charts that are created for the teacher teams, we have cohort groups. So 3rd grade from 2015 to 3rd grade to 4th grade in 2016 to I'm losing already. 5th grade all the way through. So I have tracked that data for teachers based on district information, so that we can see the group of students how they're going. The difficulty is for the first few years we had a park assessment, and now we have an IAR assessment, and then soon we'll have another assessment too. So it does make it a little bit complicated. So that cohort data is very important for us to look at. I didn't do charts for you for all of that, but I do have that later. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break here again to talk about what we do with all this kind of data. So one of the things, as Jim just asked, we look for trends. Are we seeing a consistent issue in a certain grade level, or is it with a group of students that we're seeing a trend? So that's important. We always want to look at the unit guides. So Lauren and Nicole are going to be continue to work with our teacher teams, and they've been refining and helping us add rigor where it's necessary, or tweak, or beef up certain areas or reduce other areas in our unit guide so that it's consistent. Sometimes they have to go back to the standard, and I've said that lots of times with our teachers. Is that directly connected to what the language in the standard says we're doing? Because if we're not understanding the level of proficiency, we're off mark. We're not at the right place. I already used that word, but we have to consider professional judgment. We only have so many minutes in the day, and we have to figure out what's the most essential, most important, what has the most bang for the buck. We've gone through an unpacking process to identify, does it fit that? Is it the most important things for us to do? But what we have to do sometimes is remember to go back and relook at it to make sure that we still believe from our professional judgment that's the most important thing. And then one of the things that's really important to us is to look at subgroups. We want to make sure that it's not just a district average, but we want to look at how some of our students in certain subgroups are doing. And I know that's been the direction of the board, wanting us to look specifically at the subgroups. The subgroups also are very important for one of the last things I'm going to talk about in our school report card. Because we have to make progress in each of our school report cards to show growth with our state report card information. So I wanted to share some information with you about subgroups. So this chart looks a little bit different. I'm proud of myself that I'm learning some new graphing tools here. I probably needed some students and they could have done this very quickly for me. The blue or purple box, whatever color we're going to call that, is the blue or purple box along the bottom is the state average. And then you can see there's some color coding. So this chart in particular is the difference between boys and girls who take the assessment. The red line in the middle is the district average. So just from the average sake, you typically find the one in the middle is the average along the way. And so we do notice that there is a trend that the yellow line is females, that they have a little bit stronger performance, except in 5th grade math. So we have some work to do to encourage our girls getting into 5th grade math and to show that they can do it, because we can see they rebound pretty strongly in 6th grade. So we want to make sure that we're not having any issues with our instruction for girls in 5th grade. That's just an example. We have work to do in many of the other subjects and other areas as well. Okay, this one is not the craziest one, so we'll have to take a breath for the next one. So this one is all about ethnicities. And so we want to make sure that we're looking at all the different ones. So the blue or purple box still is the state average. The red maroonish one is the district. I want to make sure that I'm very clear. You see some very tall spikes and valleys with the green line. The green line is our American Indian and Alaskan Native population. I think across the district we total have 2 or 3 students. So the number of kids in that group is not really appropriate to be comparing, but since I had the data, I was putting it in. So we do see the trend line, and so we have some work to do, specifically with our Hispanic or Latino population. My concern about that is the test itself, is that if a number of our Hispanic or Latino students are speaking Spanish in a bilingual program, for example, or not in a bilingual program but speaking Spanish, we really need an assessment that's going to test them in their native language. So I think that information could be higher if we were testing them with an appropriate assessment. Doesn't mean that we don't have work to continue to do to make sure that we're closing that gap. Okay, this one is about 504's IEPs. And so same idea, state across the bottom. The maroon red one is the district, and then the differences. So the green one is an IEP no. So that's everyone who doesn't have an IEP, compared to the yellow one, which is the lowest one, with the student who has an IEP. This does not help us identify if the IEP is in reading, or the IEP is in math, or if it's a speech language only. I'm looking at Heather to make sure that I'm saying all those things right. It's very difficult to pinpoint where the area is because we have to go back by student. This data is not sorted by data, by students, by totality. Yes?
What percentage of our students do have plus one sort of remote?
I want to protect you.
So this one, same idea, except this is for English language learners and economically disadvantaged students. And so we do see that there is a correlation at the top between non-English learners and non-economically disadvantaged and the district average. And where we see the students who are below are the English language learners, yes, and then also the economically disadvantaged. We have talked about that there's some kinds of correlation between those two groups. And also the difficulty is you may see that the students, as we get to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, the scores are not good for our EL students. That can be because they are brand new to the district, brand new to the United States, brand new to a school setting, and they are tested that way. That makes it a challenge. It also could mean that they have been a long-term EL, and they're continuing to struggle over time. That's why we are looking at different programming options. That's why we've gone to a late exit bilingual program. We're trying to beef up our instruction in all of those areas as well. Whew. Stacks and stacks of work, papers that give us all this information. I've condensed it down. I do want to reiterate that we have identified some of the specific areas of growth that we need to look at. Informational text, for example, is one that we need to work on. I'm very, very excited that at our most recent board meeting, you approved the addition of Newsella. That's going to be a great resource for informational text. So we appreciate that. We have a number of teachers who've already jumped into that and been using information. The other one that we're going to be struggling with a little bit is one of the standards that we've been told from the information we need to work on is having students take a piece of writing, something they read, and watch a video, have a multimedia clip, and then pull it all together and write a response. That's the research simulation. That's what kids do. That's what we all need to be doing, but finding good media clips that are related to a printed piece is very difficult at the grade level, appropriate level. So we're going to continue to work on that. And we have some teacher teams who have already begun to have those as part of their assessments. We're going to try some things out, but that's really an important thing for kids to be able to gather information from lots of different places, synthesize it, and then have a response. You can imagine that's in the 3rd grade classroom that we're being asked to do those kind of things. That's a lot to think about for a student. So now we're going to talk about the Illinois Science Assessment. I'm going to take a deep breath. We're going to talk about the Illinois Science Assessment. So our Illinois Science Assessment is an assessment that's required in 5th and 8th grade. And we also, it does say that they're aligned to the next generation science standards. That's what our science curriculum is based on. The Illinois Science Assessment window last year was from March 1st to the 20th. It's about the same window for this year, so it'll be before spring break. The difficulty is that last year, it was one 60-minute session. Just last week, they announced that we'll have 3 30-minute plus sessions. So now we're going to be assessing students more in science. I'm not against science being assessed, so we want to make progress with it. But when you see the reports, I hope that there's going to be a significant change in the reporting tools. The last line there is purposeful. The state provides us data about 2 performance level descriptors, proficient or not proficient. That's the entirety of the report. How many students were proficient and how many students were not proficient. So there it is. I brought the example. This one double-sided piece of paper is the entire assessment results information from the state of Illinois about the science assessment. After 60 minutes of testing. This is it. That's it. Right there. The first slide talked about how important it is to have effective reporting practices and information. We get no information about what was on the assessment. We get no information about the specific standards. We get no information even about the domain. So that's it. And so to me, while I'm glad to share science information, it's really not helpful. So here's our charts from the last few years of how we've been doing. You can see in 5th grade, if you look just at the green line, we've had a pretty small increase, but we're heading in the right direction for more. And this year in 8th grade, we had a little bit of a dip. We were headed up. Different group of students, we never know what's going to be on the test. The difficulty is that's all I have to go with for curriculum planning and improvement. You understand why I needed to take a breath for all of that. This is the same information in a chart just with all the information that we have. You can see that EL is our lowest performing group. That doesn't surprise me because the amount of content-specific language that a student would be exposed to without any support in second language. So to me, I don't think that's a fair assessment for our students. It's not an excuse. We're going to continue to have robust, good instruction, best practices. I'm looking at Dr. Diaz. These are things that she's been working on with our teams. This is 8th grade now. Same concept about EL. Again, this 8th grade EL students are struggling. Either they're new to the program or they're long-term EL and continuing to have challenges developing English skills. Am I saying that appropriately? I took a screenshot. That was it. That's the total report. Everything that we did. So the assessment literacy topics for the science assessment. We need to continuously review the NGSS expectations, Next Generation Science Standards is the acronym for that, is the full for that. We need to focus on the inquiry standards specifically. The inquiry are all the ones that kids are doing self-discovery and self-investigation. Our teachers are working on that greatly. So science class is not typically just reading a chapter about a content, it's doing experiences, trying to practice things, watching videos, trying to gather information on their own with teacher direction. We need to refine some of the unit planning. Some of our upper grades have, we have some time scheduled to continue to work on the standards again and to work on the planning. We continuously look at that monthly at our job-alike meetings. One of the things that we are interested in is to develop alternate assessment tools to promote cross-cutting concepts. What that means, instead of just having a paper pencil test, to have more project-based experiences, to be able to integrate multiple standards into one assessment and not make it feel like it's just a test. There's still opportunities for quizzes or for sharing specific information, but we're hoping kids can pull it all together and create something or share something. And then I put in my last little line there, I hope for more detailed reports in the future. It would be very helpful to have more specific information. Before I talk about the next steps for the schools in the district, questions about the information that I've shared. So, we want to make sure that our professional learning communities, each of our school-based teams, our district-based teams are going to continue to look at it. We want to make sure that we're analyzing the data and not just admiring it, but hopefully we're taking some action to change our priorities, to look at our resources, to modify our assessment practices for those different assessment types. We also want to look at those subgroup performances again and continue to look at their needs. Our continued work about equity and inclusion and our best practices associated with that are going to definitely impact those subgroups, so that's important. We also want to look at triangulating that data. We want to look at our cycle assessments, we want to look at our classroom performance, we want to look at the state assessment data so that we're hopefully seeing a trend along the way as well. Schools will use this to help develop specific goals. We had, for example, we had Nicole come, and many of the administrators and instructional coaches and some other staff were there. And they've all identified ways to present the information to staff, but then some action items for each of the buildings. So we have a plan moving forward to get this information into the teachers' hands because it's more important for them to see it as well. And then I want that continued work with the regional office content specialists and our subject area team. I want them to continue to help us because they're seeing big picture. What I love is they'll say, here are some ideas from other school districts in Lake County, and so then I can reach out to them as well. So we have shared learning between districts. Those are really important to me because I think that's the way we're going to make the best progress. So one of the things I wanted to end with is the celebration, is because on October 31st, November 1st, all of the school report cards became active and live. Leslie was able to get those organized on the website for us immediately. And one of the things on the state report card has to do with assessment results. There's lots of information on the school report card. The one I want to refer to first, and Dr. Glickman and I spoke about, is that I want to celebrate that we have 8 schools in the district from this chart, and we have 2 exemplary identified schools, and the rest were all commendable. There are 4 levels. Exemplary is the highest, commendable is the next one. There's 2 lower ones. And I'm very thrilled to say that all of our schools across the district were in commendable and exemplary. Just this afternoon, I was looking at the full state list of all the districts, and we fall right in there with our performance. And some of the local school districts, I'm very, very proud of that fact for all of those things. I did print out copies, and we've all seen what the school report card looks like. But I wanted to share that designation comes from a couple different purposes. It's not just one data piece. So remembrance that 75% of the quality school indicator was about core academic indicators. So that was the IAR, that was the science assessment, it was the EL progress to proficiency, and in both math and ELA. So 75% of that designation comes from the assessment information that I just showed you, plus EL, which is very exciting. It also says that no subgroups are underperforming. So I'm very, very proud of that fact, that of all of our subgroups, none of them were listed, or else we would not have been commendable or exemplary. The other 25% has to do with absentee rate. And if we were a high school, it would be college and career readiness or 9th grade on track. There are other things that are coming soon about the fine arts indicator and pre-K to 2, birth to P2, so the indicator, and then the 5 essentials data. And so that's just a small portion of how that all happens. So again, I'm very, very proud of the idea that we have commendable and exemplary schools in our district. We know that we have continued work to do, but we're in a good place right now. Additional questions?
I'm curious about 2 things. As far as articulation with 127, so our curriculum lines, is it time for that, or are you doing that? I just don't know.
Yes. So not necessarily with this assessment, because the IAR ends in 8th grade.
Right.
And so we don't have that same assessment. But for articulation, we have just been through a round of articulation meetings. So I've attended some, we have staff members attending, so we have in almost every core area we either have one or it's in the next 2 weeks that we have meetings to talk about what would an incoming freshman need, what trends are we seeing about that, how can we improve that, and then the long term for them, they share some data long term. They use the PSAT and the SAT as their indicators, and so they can help us figure out how to correlate those. is how we can get the best to this. And those have been very productive meetings. That's not just with Grace Lake 46, that's with all the other feeder schools as well that go into the high school.
The other question I had is, none of you have been consistently are scoring high, and they both have classroom gardens and opportunities for project design. Are those correlated, or is that?
I would love to do that as a research project, I don't know.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the school report cards that are linked on the website are really very user-friendly and chock full of good information. And we had a nice little live example of using them during this presentation, because when our board president asked our director of pupil services a question about how many of our students have IEPs, both of us jumped on, so we were doing it as well, we both jumped on our website, jumped on the school report card, and were easily able to access that data. So it's just full of information about our students and our results and our staff, just a lot of great stuff.
Didn't think about it, but that was one of
Right there.
my copies that I had, so I could have gone to other
Yeah.
pieces. I hope you understand that I've tried to compile all this information to a very short amount of time, but that's not the amount of time that we take with all of our staff and analyzing and looking at it and paying close attention. It also is just one assessment piece, so we want to look at all the other pieces of data that we have as well. Thank you, everybody.
Next up is Stephanie, Dr. Diaz with Home Church.
Presentation is very different. It is basically immigration updates that took effect October 15th. And I was able to attend this session put on by immigration lawyers. I thought the information was extremely important. Came back, shared that with the district staff, some of the EL teachers, had a BPAC, a parent advisory meeting about it, and then had the opportunity yesterday to share with leadership, and then today with you. So here we are. Also, I wanted to say that this presentation is what was shared with the parents. So there are some things that I've taken out, and also when it looks direct, like, how can we help you, or what should you do? It was really kind of a way to let the parents know that there are many organizations out to help, and where they can go to find that information. So this is a very quick YouTube video we're watching. It's 2 minutes and 37 seconds, and it is about a quick summary of what is a public charge. So basically, a public charge is an immigration law, and it's a rule that is connected to the Constitution that has always been there. What happened is the Trump administration decided to add some other qualifying factors and some other filters to this new rule. So basically, the current rule, or what was the current rule, had an immigration family or somebody wanted to change status. They would come up and they would say, they would look at all the documentation, and they would look at temporary assistance. Did you need to have any temporary assistance for housing? Did you have to have any supplemental income? Were you getting any general assistance? And then maybe do you have someone in your family or maybe yourself who was in long-term care that the government paid for? Those were all the factors. If a student or a family came back and said, no, we really needed one of those things and it wasn't for a very long time, their status wasn't affected. And they were able to continue their process of becoming a naturalized citizen, earning a green card, applying for a visa. Those were the top three. So October 15th, a whole bunch of different filters came into place, and this is why we think it's important to share with everyone else. They're now taking into consideration if a family collects SNAP benefits, so WIC, food stamps, if they're on Medicaid or they have the Medic card for their children or for themselves, also if they're in Section 8 housing or public housing. It also includes all of those plus the current rule. Okay? What the schools in Illinois districts are finding is that the parents are getting in some cases, have been feeling nervous about this rule and are giving back SNAP benefits or giving back their Medicaid card. thinking that it's going to adjust their status in a negative way, and they don't want any problems when they get to earn a visa or move up to naturalization or getting their green card. So what the purpose of the message was for the BPAC family is that SNAP benefits, a public school, and do not have a negative effect. So if you have your reduced lunch, your breakfast, lunch, that's fine. If you go to a public school, that's totally fine. If you go to the library and use any public resources, that is also good and no problem. And it's really not necessary that you give that back or stop attending those type of events. A good example of maybe a SNAP benefit for a family is if, let's say I'm here, Delilah's 5, she is my means of adjusting my status. So that means maybe I'm wanting to apply for a visa, maybe I need Delilah because she's an American citizen, so she can then petition for me. But she's 5, and so right now I'm still getting SNAP, and I have Medicaid, and she has the medical card for her. And I say, oh no, I don't want to be a burden on the government, I'm going to give that back. The immigration lawyer might look at me and say, well, she's 5. She can't petition for you until she's 21. What benefit or what good is that going to be for you to give back those benefits when she's so young? So maybe you should keep them for a little while. When she gets to be like 18 or something, then we can talk about it if things haven't changed. So those are the type of advice that the lawyers are giving to families. Does that make sense? Okay.
Can I summarize real quick?
Yes.
To make sure I get it. So there was a rule prior to October, and it had a few filters. They added filters, and they're using those filters to deny access for visas and green cards and citizenships. That is fine?
Yes. The other types of things that are being included are age, medical conditions, family status, household assets, and education. So those things were also never considered either, and are now looking at, okay, well, if you're a group big family, and you have maybe you're living with your mom, and she might be in her older age, and maybe one of my children has asthma, and I also now maybe only went to 3rd grade. Oh my goodness, now I have a lot of different filters that I'm going to be looked at. And one of the things that the lawyers pointed out multiple times is that this is a test. And not to, let's say that I tried to do this, and my best friend did this too, and we had very similar profile, very similar case. We're not going to be judged the same. So they would be saying okay, I had SNAP benefits and she had SNAP benefits. Maybe for me it would be I get 10 points off and she'd only get 5. And the lawyers are still trying to figure out why. And so they're not sure. And so obviously there's things for families. Please make sure you consult immigration lawyer, but know that it's a test, it's a lot of filters, and they're not all weighted the same. This is, how do I know if this applies to me? Because there are many groups of people who this doesn't affect at all. So if you are on DACA, if you are an asylee, if you are a refugee, or if you already have a green card, this whole public charge does not apply to you. So you've already gone through a bunch of different filters. Government already said you're trying to be here. You can renew your green card. You can renew your DACA. No problem, right? If you happen to have a U visa or a T visa, again, your status is fine. Those are 2 types of visas that you get. If a crime happens to occur to you on United States territory, then you're issued a visa under different types of circumstances. That's what EUTs are. Okay? But if you do plan to try to apply for a green card or a visa inside the United States, or even outside, and you want to petition someone is petitioning you to come in, then that is where you really need to see immigration status and get some help, because those will be the 2 types of groups that will be highly affected. Good? Questions? Okay. The next part kind of turns to DACA a little bit, and this is for the Deferred Action for Childhood. Children were brought over illegally to the United States because their parents came, and they're really now kind of could be punished, right? Okay, you're an undocumented citizen of the United States. They're saying it wasn't my fault. I was 3. I came with my mom. What do you want me to do? And so basically, they're just saying DACA right now is not accepting new applications. But if you are already DACA, you can absolutely you can renew them, and then the Supreme Court is going to decide if DACA is legal or unconstitutional, and then decide what they're going to do. One area where that is very important for schools is that if you have a student in 8th grade and who goes to high school, there are many universities in Illinois who take DACA students, allow them through through scholarship and things like that to earn a degree and then help with placement in a different country. So then they were able to work in the field that they're just graduated from and then help them find different types of visas or apply for a business visa, which then they can go back to their home country, come here, earn residency somewhere, and then become very productive citizens. And so this is what, and we do have some DACA students in our district and as well as in the high school. So this is very, it's good for us to know. And then this is very specific for parents, right? And it was basically saying that if you happen to come across ICE or something happens to you, make sure that you know your rights, remain silent, make sure that you have an attorney, and then make sure you request your local telephone call. And one of the things that the lawyer really specified during the presentation was that you can say, they say, I'm so sorry. They said, please make sure that you say your name and your birthday, and then you say, I have the right to remain silent. And they wanted to make sure that you use your name and your birthday because then you're going to be able to be found. So like if something happened to you, your family can find you because that's documented, and then you're now protected in a bubble with your right to remain silent. They said that let's say a couple of hours pass and maybe you need a drink of water or you would like to use your phone call and you say, can I please have a drink of water or may I please make a phone call? You've now just broken that bubble. And so you go into whatever you just asked, you come back, there'll be a whole bunch of people waiting to ask you all these questions. And then you have to say again, I have the right to remain silent, and you're back in your bubble. And they said a lot of people didn't know that if you break it, you need to put it back. And that you do have the right to say it more than once. So if you're like, after 11, after 11, I've heard you remain silent. And then you can go in peace to the bathroom and come back, and no one's going to be waiting for you. They did say to make sure that you give a local telephone call to a family or friend, hopefully with legal status. And the idea behind that is that we're not putting anyone really in any other jeopardy. And if you're able to have custodial papers and things like that, your friends or family can take your children. And I know that was a question here at the board a couple of meetings ago. What happens to children whose families might be in a situation like this? There are ways to protect them so they don't get in this system. And by one of them to have that. Right? And then the lawyer went in to talk a little bit about two different types of warrants. I will make this part very, very short. What I do want to say though, it was very beneficial to learn about this, because even though it seems like, oh, that might not happen here, it actually is happening quite close. And there's been some instances where ICE have tried to come into schools, or they're waiting by schools, of course closer maybe to Chicago and things like that. But it's not so far away that we should be like, oh, that might not happen. Because it's slightly, and unfortunately, happening more often. And so basically there's most important thing, judicial search warrants allow us to enter non-public areas. So that's maybe your own home, if you own a business, they can come in there. And then it was to identify what types of things you should look for. So just make sure that on those warrants, it is very specific, where they want to go, where they want to enter, who they want to see, and it has to be signed by a judge. And if it doesn't have any one of those three things, then you don't have to really accept it. You can say, I don't think that this is, come back when you have it specified, come back when it's signed by a judge, but we don't have to take this paper, right? And then the second, as an example, make sure that the date is accurate and then the signing by the judge. And then the next one is the administrative warrant, and this is where the lawyers who were speaking from experience, case after case after case, where they said, unfortunately, this type of warrant is being used to get into non-public areas, which is not what it's supposed to, right? So they're trying to use this warrant to get into basically anywhere that they would like to go, and maybe kind of, if you didn't ask the right questions, you would see this paper, you might get a little bit nervous, and then you would let ICE do whatever you need them to do, right? So they're just saying to know what the papers look like, know what the warrants look like, and ask the right questions. And make sure that this one needs to be signed by an immigration officer, not by a judge, so then they have different